Hello, and welcome to... Hey cat. Hello, welcome to this episode of Umineko. Our new one, yes. Episode 9 already, of the 5th arc, End of the Golden Witch. Hey cat, how are you doing? And thank you for 5 months already, holy shit. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. I'm doing alright, I'm just warming up my hand currently over a cup of tea because I had to defrost my freezer today and it was cold. Not a good idea to do that in winter, or winter-ish, but you know, I had to. But that's normal people stuff. Today we're here for magic and mysteries. Freezers do be like that though. Also, I'm glad you're doing good. Let's see. I'll start off with the content warning, how about that? Because in this arc of Umineko, we're going to be dealing with character deaths, detailed descriptions of gore and body horror, child abuse, discussion and mentions of suicide, and misogyny. So if you're like, I don't want to deal with anything like that right now, totally cool. Go do something fun. Look after yourself, and have a great time. Because yeah, it's not a very cheerful series ultimately. I say while laughing, but I do mean that it gets unpleasant sometimes, and yeah, that's why we have the content warning every week. And soon I get to update it because we'll be starting on episode 6. Or arc 6, I should say. So that's going to be exciting. For now we're still in arc 5, but we're wrapping it up. It does have lighthearted moments, you're totally right. It's not all bad all the time. Couple of things. Wait, I should probably just do that when we're done. Yeah, I'll save it for when we're done. Okay. For now, I'll tell you what happened last time, in case you missed it or need a little reminder. I'm really vibing today. Normally you have to think way harder about, like, the opening ramble, you know, and now it's like, yeah, whatever. I'll figure it out. I'll roll with it. Anyway, last time... I'm in the zone. I should write. No, I shouldn't write this down. This is all natural. You can't contain this. This is gonna happen once and then never again. Lightning in a bottle. Minus the bottle, I think. I don't know how sayings work. English is weird. Yes, you're right. Last time, Natsu had a very bad day. On top of her daughter being murdered, her husband being kidnapped, and used by someone only known as the man from 19 years ago to basically run around and do all kinds of weird stuff, like hiding in a closet for like a couple of hours. She's basically being blackmailed. And while she was hiding in this closet, Hideyoshi went into this room and was then murdered. And, well, she got away, she thought, only to stumble onto Erika in the process of actually leaving the room. And, that led to us going to court. Not real life court. It's as it says here, the Great Court of Illusions. And we're going to have a meta magic world showdown. And it's gonna be awesome. Natsuki gives you bad vibes, oh no. I mean, fair. I like her though, I think she deserves better. I like her a lot. It's just, I understand her suffering. She has a tough life. Anyway, the music is absolutely hype. I'm ready. I hope y'all are ready. All of the pieces from the game board were gathered. All of the humans, furniture, witches, and the witches on an even higher level. If they played this in court, yeah, that would be way more interesting to me as well. All of them had gathered in one place. I thought I finished that sentence, but I didn't. That place was like a solemn cathedral with an unbelievably high ceiling. White stonework, golden ornaments. Though there were windows, there were no entrances nor exits. It was a strange, strange place. But for some reason, no one wondered where this strange place was, because they were not given the right to think of this place as strange. Okay, for the last 4 episodes, we've started off with Lambda, and her voice is one of the most difficult for me to figure out, especially when I have to, like, gear up to do it. But no, every time she just kicks the door down like, yo, I'm here, sup. Girl, why do you have to do this to me? This is on me for making her sound the way I did, but... Okay. Let me just... I'll get some tea. She wants my voice to suffer, yeah. She would though, she would get a laugh out of me imitating her. Badly.
Pieces. Are you all gathered?
All present, ma'am.
Good work. What a spectacle. I wonder just how many people there are here.
No matter how many we see, every being outside the 18 is an illusion. Making you acknowledge them is what my game's all about. The 3 witches were seated on special thrones, set upon a very high balcony. In the center sat the Game Master, Lambda Delta, and on either side of the semicircular balcony sat Berncastle and Beatrice, facing each other. Below them, Erika ran forward, lifted the corners of her skirt, and bowed respectfully. Yeah, Virgilia not invited to this party. Which, I mean, she retired, you know. That's fair.
Great Lady Lambda Delta, I thank you for granting my request for an assembly. And great Lady Berncastle, my master. You can expect great things from this assembly. Though it may be only for a short while, I will most certainly make you forget about the poison that torments you.
Yes, great things are what I expect. Because you are my double, and my piece. Erika and Berncastle exchanged nasty smiles that would make anyone want to avert their gaze. Ow. That was loud. I forgot the content warning for Erika, but yes, content warning. Erika is here.
Hear me, witches, humans. I hereby announce the assembly of a witches' coven. The Court of Illusions is now in session.
The ruler of the game spoke with words of power. Though her words were spoken inside such a vast space, they rang out with the force of a bell in its bell tower.
Your lives and roles within this game are over. The 5th game is hereby closed, and the midnight answer session shall begin. I'd love to get started right away, but why don't we have everyone Why don't we have everyone quickly introduce themselves first? I forgot to learn how to read. Since there's so many of us here. I am Lambda Delta, the Witch of Certainty and the new ruler of this game. Berncastle, Witch of Miracles. My goal is to penetrate Beatrice's witch illusions.
Listen, even witches can be illiterate, I guess. I don't know.
I am the Endless Witch, Beatrice. My goals are to assert my own existence and to protect Natsuhi and Kinzo. Battler-sama, you come next in rank.
Damn, Battler leveled up. I guess this is real Battler, yeah. Yeah, must be. I'm Ishinomiya Battler. I'm fighting Beato's. No. I'm fighting the witches. That's all.
As I believe you know, you joined in on this game partway through. This means that at the time the Coven commenced, you were not yet a participant. Do I need to explain further?
I get it. You mean I don't have the right to speak for the time being, right?
Thank you for understanding.
Even though Battler held a rank second only to the witches, he sat on the foremost pew with the other relatives, all by himself at one end. He met the gaze of Beato, who was up on the balcony. Oh, it hurts because she's not the real one. You could simply have said that you were my arch enemy. Well, you weren't necessarily my only enemy.
Let's take this game back. It belongs to us.
Yeah. I almost said that I was fighting Beato's witch illusions. Originally, Beato was my one and only enemy. But now, Erika and those witches who started tampering with Beato's tale are my enemies as well. Who should I fight, and how? Maybe it's a good thing I won't have the right to speak for a while. I'll keep a cool head and calmly watch everything unfold.
I am the detective and the initiator of this coven, Furudo Erika. I will expose the culprit of the 5th game and bring this tale to a pleasing conclusion.
Erika greeted the witches above her and the humans behind her once again.
I'm looking forward to your performance too. Okay, remaining pieces, introduce yourselves in whatever order and make it quick. Humans, introduce yourselves, all of you.
Urged by 45 to introduce himself, Kinzo stood up. I am Ishinomiya Kinzo. I slipped out of the study window and am hiding somewhere on Rokujima. Ishinomiya Kraus. I have been captured and am currently being confined somewhere.
Ishinomiya Eva. I'm alive.
I'm Rudolph. The rest of us are all Ishinomiya too, so let's just skip the family name.
I'm Rosa. I was killed on the first twilight. Jessica. Same here. Dead on the first twilight. I'm George. Likewise, I died on the first twilight. Maria. I died, but look, I'm here talking. See? Dying isn't a big deal, right? I'm Ishinomiya Natsuhi. I am alive.
Hideyoshi here. I was killed just a short while ago.
Kiria. I'm still alive.
Nanjo. I am also hanging in there. My name is Genji. I died on the first twilight.
I'm Shannon. I'm still alive.
I'm coming. I'm also alive. I'm Goda. Pleased to meet you, everyone. I'm Kumasawa. Pleased to meet you.
Now, on to the witches. Everyone, introduce yourselves.
Virgilia's group could also be seen. There was a second balcony, different from the one Beato's group was on, which jutted out like a raised audience seating. They sat there, looking down as though they were at a theater.
My name is Virgilia. I am Beatrice's master in magic.
I'm Gap. Making corpses disappear is my job. Runove. I am charged with making the tea. Ooh. I think we're gonna break our record of how many characters are talking this episode, so that's gonna be a challenge.
I greet you in the name of the Seven Sisters of Purgatory. I served in the murder of Hideyoshi on the Second Twilight.
Oh, okay, we bypass it. Never mind. The Seven Sisters of Purgatory, right here.
Let us then have Lady Erika's furniture introduce themselves.
Gertrude. I am an assistant inquisitor.
Cornelia. I am an assistant inquisitor.
The two of them could also be seen on the second floor balcony. They sat apart from Virgilia's group. Blech. Then, Delanor, who was seated between the two, slowly stood up. She had a presence and dignity about her, as though she was overseeing everything from that place. Delanor A. Knox is my name.
I am Lady Erika's primary assistant.
Battler. I am expecting a lot of you. Please, do not disappoint me. Let's just both give it all we've got.
Most of the time, there will be no need for Delanor to step forward. However, when the witch side plays around with ugly word games, I'll need to have Delanor pass judgment on them. The miracle in the study will not occur again. And finally, let us introduce ourselves. We are the Jester Sisters' Imperial Guards, who have been tasked with management of proceedings at this coven. Hello, everyone. Yeah.
That's all she says. That's all she's got. 410 is my favorite of the bunch, honestly.
This ends the introductions of all pieces. A total of 38 people are present here.
The number of characters was 38 if you only took the 5th game into account. But if you added all the pieces who appeared in previous games too, it would probably rise even higher. That's true. This game has a ridiculous amount of characters in it. This mysterious game, which had so often been likened to chess, now had far more pieces than a chessboard.
Good. Then I guess we'll get started. Initiator, please begin. Oh, excuse me, you, the goat over there. Refill my drink.
And some popcorn for me.
Oh, that's right. It was you who decided that popcorn was the only proper accompaniment to demonic theater, after all.
Yes, I intend to enjoy this. And could I get some black tea and mustard miso? Erika, begin. I'm already starting to get bored. 410 is the name given to a small bore shotgun? Interesting.
Yes, my master. Leave it to me. Order. Silence.
At the sound of her voice, the Chester sister troops straightened up, lifted their right knees, and stamped down hard on the floor with their heels. It became a low, deep rumble in the ground, which instantly erased all chatter in the cathedral, and turned their eyes and expressions even more hollow and empty. The room fell back into silence, almost as though they were a collection of wax models. Amidst this heavy silence, there was the sound of footsteps, as Erika walked out into the center where she could catch everyone's attention. When she signaled with her chin, a goat attendant appeared from behind a pillar and carried a single, plain chair out into the front and center of the room. It must have been the defendant's chair.
I, Furudo Erika, will make an accusation. The murderer of the 5th game is... Ushiromiya Natsuhi-san. You are the culprit.
Erika pointed at Natsuhi and spoke. The Natsuhi wax doll alone twitched and regained its expression. It was an expression of panic.
Chester sisters, please take the defendant to her chair.
Understood. Yep, that's our Erika. Bold. Evidence, what evidence?
Wait, what are you doing? Let go of me.
45 and 410 pinned Natsuhi's arms behind her back and led her to the chair in the center. Natsuhi resisted, but the Chester sisters were surprisingly strong, and she couldn't do anything. She turned to the relatives for help, but they just remained silent like wax models.
I, Furudo Erika, will now reconstruct why the crime was only possible for Ushiromiya Natsuhi.
Beato. Of course, you'll be defending her, right?
Naturally. I'm the Ushiromiya family alchemist, Beatrice the Golden. Furudo Erika, I accept your challenge. I shall take these false accusations you're trying to place on my master and tear them apart. Beatrice. Fear not, Natsuhi. You are my master, and you are the true head, with the one winged eagle engraved in your heart. Do not fear a crime you have not committed.
At those words, Natsuhi jerked back and gulped. Her panic finally disappeared, and she stood up straight.
That's true. I'm Ushiromiya Natsuhi. I will confront any challenger who would dare blaspheme the name of Ushiromiya.
How can you make such an empty boast in a situation like this? You really are the bullied kid in every single fragment.
So, Vern, make your claims.
I, Burncastle, claim
that a human, Ishiramiya Natsuhi, is the culprit of this game. And you too, Beato, okay? I, Beatrice, claim that the culprit in this game is not human. I am the culprit. Berncastle, who smiled daringly, and Beatrice, who smiled firmly, crossed gazes. Do you hear this? Witches, humans. Two claims have appeared for a single truth. Is the culprit the human Ushiromiya Natsuhi? Or is the culprit the witch, Beatrice? If the witch wins, the truth of the fifth game will disappear into darkness. If Erika wins, the witch illusion will be wiped from the game board. In other words, for Beato alone, this is a battle where losing is not an option. Are you prepared? And what am I supposed to be preparing myself for? This is what I've been craving all along. If Erika were to win, the witch illusion would be destroyed. That would mean the existence of the witch would be denied. Beato was fighting for her life. However, this wasn't the only time she'd been fighting for her life. It had always been a life-or-death struggle, even when she fought with Battler. Because if Battler had won, and broken through the witch illusion in any of the previous games, Beato would have been destroyed. That's dirty. Erika's the only one with nothing to lose if she fails. I wouldn't be so certain of that. Lady Berncastle is not a compassionate person. I can't imagine she'd give any warm treatment to a piece that didn't perform as she hoped. It was inconceivable that the ruthless Berncastle would place no blame at all on a piece who had suffered defeat. Erika was probably fighting for her life just the same. The two claims would clash, and one would be weeded out. One would fall, and would not leave this place alive. The only ones who truly had nothing to lose were those witches. And yeah, I think since Lucifer is technically like a weapon, she doesn't count as a culprit because she would need to be used by someone. Plus, magical weapon, so Erika's gonna be like, you don't exist. You know? Yeah. That's my assumption, at least. I don't actually remember how it goes entirely, so no spoilers there. Just my hunch. They might go into a discussion about the murder weapon, actually. Yeah. Okay, no problems. Now begin. In that case, I would like to go first. The murder of Hideyoshi-san is very simple. It should be impossible to suspect anyone other than Natsuhi-san. Except for the victim and Natsuhi-san, all of us were in the same room, correct? It really was simple. Everyone except Natsuhi was in the parlor. And because it was so simple, it was decisive. One sec, I need to cough. What? No matter how you look at it, the one who killed Hideyoshi was Natsuhi. No, it's the other way around. No matter how you look at it, no one except for Natsuhi could have killed Hideyoshi. There's no room for discussion or debate. I'm telling you, you're mistaken. It may be true that I don't have an alibi, However, I don't believe the lack of an alibi proves that one is the culprit. I understand that Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi. But wait. The scene of the murder was a locked room. It should have been impossible for anyone, including Natsuhi, to have committed the crime in that room. Except for me, since I could have done it with magic. I'll explain the locked room trick, the how-done-it, later. We are starting with who-done-it for the time being. So for the reason I just mentioned, it's impossible to suspect any character except Natsuhi-san for the murder of Hideyoshi-san.
Eric, I don't think that's how that works. Milady, it may be dangerous to press any further on this.
I agree. It's a fact that Natsuhi was hiding in the closet of Hideyoshi's room. If they use a repetition request to check her location, we'll be cornered.
Probably. Lady Lambda Delta is the ruler of this game. If it suits her fancy, she'll set up Natsuhi as the culprit regardless of the facts. If the typhoon were to pass, and the police were to come and perform a scientific investigation, perhaps the true culprit would be identified, and the false accusations against Natsuhi lifted. However, the police would never arrive at this closed-off Rokujima. In other words, the real truth would never be revealed. Inside a cat box that will never be opened, false charges that everyone accepts have exactly the same value as the truth. Their aim is most likely to use the simple murder of Hideyoshi to give the impression that Natsuhi-sama is the culprit, before moving on to the first Twilight's reconstruction, which has more uncertain elements.
It's not good at all to proceed while under the Game Master's suspicion. We should take the initiative.
Indeed.
Lady Lambda Delta, as you are well aware, a fair number of murders were committed during the 5th game, and we are skipping the rather lengthy chunk of time from midnight until the early morning. Skipping to Hideyoshi's murder, and stepping backwards and forwards in time will only lead to confusion. It is my belief that we should follow events chronologically and in order. Though the decision is yours, of course. Objection. Chronological order has no significance in the process of building a case against the culprit. Objection. Furudo Erika is trying to manipulate perception in her favor by mixing up the chronological sequence. Ugh, I don't like it when things get all muddled either. I accept Beata's claim. Erika, start with the first Twilight instead of jumping to the second.
I definitely saw Erika click her tongue. Now I understand. This is how the tales of the Rokujima are created. After being guided by Virgilia and meeting Beatrice, now I stand here, at this peak from which I can see everything below me, and I finally understand the truth of this world. This is that thing you talked to me about before.
Yes, that's right.
Truth is very fragile in this place. As long as each side makes its own claim, different truths can exist at the same time. Yes. This really is a trial. Both sides put forth their own truths. This here truly is the brown tube trial that Virgilia once used as an analogy.
Then I will follow Lady Lambda Delta's orders and start from the first crime at the first Twilight. As you know, at midnight on October 4th, the first day, following a short break in the family conference, Natsuhi-san left on her own, saying that she was going to bed early. Therefore, her alibi is completely lost from that time until the next morning.
The culprit is Ushiromiya Natsuhi. This is because Natsuhi is the only one without an alibi.
Oh, is that so?
I believe there are several people besides Natsuhi who have dubious alibis. Unless you can clear suspicion from all of them, I cannot allow you to call Natsuhi the culprit. The culprit cannot be definitely said to be Natsuhi, as long as there are other people without alibis. Whew. Natsuhi was the only one without an alibi between midnight and 1. This is being used as a basis for claiming that she is the culprit. However, that cannot be said for certain as long as the following possibilities exist. Is it not possible that Balor in the guest house committed the crime? Is it not possible that Nanjo in the guest house committed the crime? Is it not possible that Goda in the guest house committed the crime? Is it not possible that Kumasawa in the guest house committed the crime? Is it not possible that Genji in the mansion committed the crime? Is it not possible that Kraus in the mansion committed the crime? Is it not possible that other people in the mansion besides Natsuhi committed the crime? Is it not possible that George and the others were actually just playing dead? What if the second floor was reachable without going past Erika in the lounge? What if the crime was committed before midnight? What if the crime was committed after 3 a.m.? What if the crime was committed outside the interval of midnight to 1 a.m.? What if someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m.?
True. If Erika wants to claim that Natsuhi is suspicious, she should first show that everyone besides Natsuhi has an alibi. Right, Vern?
Yes, of course. Erika will provide a complete explanation that covers everyone. Yeah, that was a lot of reading. The culprit is Ushiromiya Natsuhi, as we will prove. Everyone else has an alibi. I was worried that it would disappear on its own, so I was rushing. But it didn't. Which is very thoughtful of them.
Of course, my master. In that case, I would like to explain things in order. Let's forget about Genji's murder for now, and focus on the crime in the guest house. The inclination here is to suspect the servants who are in the guest house, yes? On that night, Goda-san and Kumasawa-san were in the guest house. Isn't that right, you two?
She turned to face the direction where those two people were seated. And just those two wax models came back to life. When they weren't allowed to speak, they probably weren't even granted a soul. In that case, it would have been much better if Natsuhi's soul could simply have disappeared as well. Natsuhi, who was in the defendant's chair, kept her soul the whole time, and was constantly hanging her head, looking nervous. Goda hurried to his feet and answered Erika's question. Yes, that is correct. On that evening, I was alone in the guest house servant room. Well, look at my age. Staying up the night would be a heavy burden, so I returned to the servants' quarters in the guest house, and went to bed right away on my own. Yes, you better believe I did. Doesn't that mean Goda and Kumasawa have lost their alibis? Kumasawa claims that she was sleeping alone in the servants' quarters. Goda claims he was alone in the servants' room. Either of them should have had enough time to go to the cousin's room and commit murder. Nonsense. Why would we do something like that? That's right, that's right. How could we ever kill another person? The culprit cannot definitely be definitely said to be Natsuhi. After all, is it not possible that either of these two committed the crime? Natsuhi said it all. Both Kumasawa, who was sleeping alone in the servants' quarters, and Goda, who was alone in the servant room, are in the exact same situation as Natsuhi in her room. Both of them have lost their alibis.
Have no fear. I guarantee that neither of these two are murderers. Firstly, Kumasawa-san. Following dinner, she left the mansion with me and the others and went to the guest house, entered the servants' quarters, and slept until morning. It's the same for Goda-san. Once he finished with his job, he chatted with us in the lounge and went to sleep afterwards. Neither of them had the opportunity to commit murder.
And so we're finally here. see that it's time for me to stand up as well. Your turn is over already, Erika. Go summon that bodyguard you rely on so much. Beato glanced at where Delanor sat on the second floor balcony. However, Delanor just stared back with those usual expressionless eyes. Repetition requested. We have absolute proof of Goda and Kumasawa's alibis. Decline repetition. Why give a hint to an enemy? There's no way we'd answer. Did you hear that, Lady Lambda Delta? They say they have no proof. Is it acceptable for them to claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis without proof?
Good point. What do you say, Vern? Erika? How can you claim that Goda and Kumasawa have alibis?
Stay out of this, Erika. My opponent is Delanor over there. A mere human like you is not fit to argue with a witch.
No. There's no need for Delanor to step forward. In fact, it is precisely this, a mere human defeating a witch, that will spell the end for the witch illusion. So go ahead. Use the red and blue as much as you like. I'm ready for you.
In response to Erika's challenge, Beato smiled boldly, yet gracefully, and slowly stood up. And they glared at each other between the floor and the balcony. Goda and Kumasawa have no alibis. The two of them were in the guest house and could have reached the cousin's room to commit murder at any time. Unless you can eliminate that possibility, you cannot treat Natsuhi as the culprit. Beato's blue truth struck out rapidly. The curtain had finally dropped, and the battle had begun. A human like Erika can't use any red. How could she turn this around without calling Delanor? Though Erika cannot use it, her master, Lady Burncastle, can. We mustn't let our guards down.
Blue truth, valid. What'll you do, Burn? Will you or Delanor step in instead?
It is still not my turn. And it is not Lady Burncastle's turn either. Yes, that's right. There's no need for us to show up for something like this. This is important precisely because a mere human like Furudo Erika will defeat you, Beato. Because you'll be defeated by a human, we'll know. We'll all know that the fake witch who calls herself Beatrice the Golden is nothing more than a subhuman illusion.
If you can really do that, it'll be seriously interesting. Okay, Erika. Let's see what you've got. I will begin with Kumasawa-san. It is extremely simple. Kumasawa-san, stand.
Yes.
Kumasawa-san, from the time you went to bed last night, to the time you were informed about the crime in the morning, did you ever leave the servants' quarters?
No. I was sound asleep until morning, I really was.
The truth is, after dinner last night, I had a chat with Eva-san, and she told me something very interesting. And I tested it out myself.
What are you talking about? You don't mean...
That's right. It's what cornered and sealed Kinzo in the study. I learned that you can create a seal by putting something between a door and the frame.
Are you kidding? Did she actually do that to the servants' quarters where Kumasawa-san was sleeping? Erika was in the guest house, so there's no obstacle to her having been capable of that.
After all, it was an unsettling night, and a massive amount of gold had just been discovered. Many sorts of crimes might have occurred. Where there is a detective, there will be a crime. I foresaw that some kind of crime would take place, so I used this to seal away people whose alibis might otherwise be lost.
Erika held a small, folded piece of brown paper high in the air.
After I watched Kumasawa-san, who returned to the guest house with me, say goodnight and enter the servants' quarters, I used this to seal the door. Then, in the morning, when the crime was discovered and caused a big uproar, I immediately went to check Kumasawa-san's quarters, where I confirmed that the seal was still intact. Therefore, I can prove Kumasawa-san's alibi.
Kumasawa has an alibi. I'm not going to read all that again. But it is not possible for Kumasawa to have committed the crime.
Good. A wonderful alibi. Absolutely airtight. Kumasawa returned to the guest house with Erika, went to the servants' quarters to sleep, and never left the room until morning. In other words, after Kumasawa returned to the guest house, she never went to the second floor until morning.
The proof Erika had shown was elevated by Berncastle and became red truth. This truth, which had become red, could no longer be overturned, even by Beato. In other words, in that instant, Kumasawa's perfect alibi had been absolutely guaranteed.
Then what about Goda? Goda-san holed up in the servant room right after reaching the guest house. I sealed him up in the same way. Then, when Rosa-san returned at 1 AM, I happened to notice her when I stepped out into the corridor. I let Goda-san, who was still in the servant room, know this. The seal was intact at that time, so from the time we arrived at the guest house until 1 AM, Goda-san never left the servant room. And afterwards, he was with me in the lounge until 3 AM. And after 3 AM, I was upstairs, so I can guarantee that Goda-san didn't come up. Erika's seal proves that Goda was holed up in the servant room until 1 AM, and Erika can testify to his alibi from then until the 3 AM, because she was passing the time in the lounge with him. And after that point, he never set foot upstairs until the morning after. Erika can attest to this as well. In other words, after Goda returned to the guest house, he never went up to the second floor until morning.
Goda has an alibi. Therefore, it is not possible for Goda to have committed the crime.
Red truth. Valid. Well done, Erika. The alibis due to your seals on those doors have been acknowledged by Byrne and elevated to the status of red truth. Thank you very much, my master. I am I forgot how to speak again. I am the detective, a being greater than humans who can invoke the red truth despite her humanity.
You cannot pronounce the word detective, yet you claim to be greater than human. You conceited brat. Live another 1,000 years and then you can talk. Yeah, they are blazing through everything that's standing in the way. She's only a few days old. You're right. She's a baby. A mean baby, but a baby nonetheless.
It'll be a pain to have you try anything funny, so I'll make this clear now. In fact, I should have done this in the beginning. I apologize for being so roundabout. This is the state of the guest house at midnight. The gold had been found. An emergency family conference called. and Balor had gone to the mansion with the relatives. I, the 3 cousins, Dr. Nanjo, Goda-san, and Kumasawa-san remained in the guest house. I've already explained Goda-san and Kumasawa-san's alibis. George-san, Jessica-san, and Maria-san were playing cards in the cousins' room. I actually joined in for a little bit, and I clearly witnessed that they were alive at that time. My master, I request that you repeat this. Yes, I'll oblige you. At midnight in the guest house, George, Jessica, and Maria were alive, and they were in the 2nd floor cousin's room. Nanjo, Goda, and Kumasawa were on the 1st floor. And, since there's no need to hold off on it anymore, I'll confirm that all the victims so far are dead. George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji. These 5 really are dead. How could they be playing dead with their necks sliced open like that? No murder occurred before midnight. We guarantee that George's group is dead. Which rules out the possibility that they're playing dead, and rules out the crime was committed before midnight. Thank you for repeating, my master. I had to make these things clear, you see, or I might have started hearing about how they were already dead before I guaranteed everyone's alibi. Or that they weren't actually dead at all. Unsurprisingly, Beato's side couldn't get away with the simple plan of claiming that the victims were only playing dead. But in order to overcome Goda and Kumasawa's alibis, it should have been possible to suppose that the crime occurred before those doors were sealed. However, the opponents had predicted this move perfectly. It had now been shown in red that the crime did not occur before the time period covered by Erika's alibis. Actually, that's a sneaky, that would be a really sneaky trick there, to be like, oh, well, it was midnight the other day, since it's that yeah, they don't say if it's on the 4th or the 5th or whenever, you know. But man, that would be sneaky. Which, it's entirely up their alley, let's be real. Also, okay. I enabled hand gestures for my avatar, so occasionally if I I don't know, scratch my face or something, or have my hand on screen, then it's gonna trigger, it's gonna toggle stuff. So I just accidentally put the eye patch on. Cause look, I can just... You can't tell the difference between me hitting a button or me doing this with my hand, but I'm doing this with my hand right now. It's extremely cool. I'm a big fan. Like, I could do all kinds of cool stuff. I can show some of it off at the end, maybe. I think I'd only just toggled it, so... It's not like you didn't notice anything, because there was nothing to notice. But yeah, there's a couple of, expressions that I haven't gotten to use much, because I also keep forgetting them, but this will make it a little easier for me to swap in and out of stuff. Which is great. You know, for the immersion.
Got it. That's the last time the victims were confirmed to be alive. I wish you'd said that in the beginning. This means we can ignore everything that happened before midnight.
To go even further, at midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in a corridor on the 2nd floor of the mansion. All the remaining people were at the family conference in the dining hall. Of course, at that point in time, no murder had occurred. Genji was also alive.
confirmation that at midnight, those said to be inside the mansion were indeed inside the mansion. Addendum. It has already been shown that none of them left the mansion before 1 AM, including Natsuhi. I think is what that said.
That isn't something that Erika observed, but we can't move the game forward without establishing it. Okay, I'll acknowledge that red truth. Red truth? Thank you very much for that red truth, my master.
Since Erika had been in the guest house, it was only natural that she could explain the situation there. However, since she hadn't been in the mansion at that time, explaining the situation over there would have been extremely difficult for her. Beato would normally have attacked there with the blue truth, saying that the people in the dining hall had all agreed to keep to the same story, and that someone might have snuck out of the dining hall and committed murder in the guest house. However, because Byrne had instantly settled that matter with the red truth, Beato had completely lost her chance to strike back. Damn you. Very troublesome. To think we would be put at such a disadvantage.
This is almost the exact opposite of Reach's fights with Balor.
In fact, the situation might be even worse than it was back then. At a glance, the fight between the two of them resembled our previous fights. However, there were some vital differences. The first was whether or not Beato was the game master. The Beato who fought against me was the game master, so she knew all the truth. That's why she was able to use the red truth at will. However, the current Beato isn't the game master. She's just a single piece on the game board. In other words, even Beato doesn't know the truth. So you could say that Beato is now in the same position I once was. I'm also just gonna quickly pop this out. Also, though Erika may seem to be in the same position I once was, the situation for her is totally different. She's connected to the witch called Burncastle. Even though she isn't the game master, she's capable of elevating Erika's statements to become red truth. Because of this, Erika can use the red truth even though she's neither a witch nor the game master. Beato, who's supposed to be the witch, possesses no truth or red she can use. And yet the detective, Erika, can use the red truth. The advantage has completely flipped over to the other side. You could probably say that the current Beato is in a much worse position than I was when I fought with her. After I got used to the game, Beato stopped responding to my repetition requests. But in the beginning, she responded to almost all of them, giving me quite a few hints. That's why we were able to fight on par. However, Burncastle is different. She fully understands the rules of this game and is prepared to corner Beato without even a hint of restraint. And all this made me realize Beato was going easy on me so that we could fight on par with each other. This has become quite an interesting fight. I see. So I must fight from the position Balor once stood in. Beato. I once insulted you and called you incompetent. I can handle much, much worse than this. It's now impossible to suspect Goten Kumasawa. You can't win by arguing at that point any longer. Yep. Let's switch to a different approach. The next in line would probably be Nanjo. He was also in the guest house. Nanjo was in the guest house with Erika, if I'm not mistaken. But the time periods before and after that should be wide open. That's right. I'll strike there. Nanjo, you are relaxing in the downstairs lounge of the guest room with Erika and Goda, correct? Is it not possible that Nanjo in the guest house committed the crime? Yes. I was with Erika-san the whole time. And during what time was this? From 1 to 3 a.m.
Yes, that's right. Between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. Dr. Nanjo, Goda-san, and I were relaxing in the lounge. Repetition requested, my master. I'll respond. From 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., the trio of Erika, Nanjo, and Goda spent their time in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house. Though she had flat out refused Beato's repetition request, she responded to Erika's immediately. The red truth was starting to corner Beato. He's the culprit because he needed to practice? Ew. I mean, he is an old man, you gotta keep up your skills, you know. It could happen. I can see it. Beato grimaced as though in pain, but she still struck back with the blue truth. No, she really was in pain. As alibis were steadily established for everyone other than Natsuhi, the witch illusion was also being denied. Beato perceived the denial of her existence as pain. Don't we all? Even so, you shouldn't have an alibi for the time period before and after you were in the lounge. It was possible for Nanjo to commit the crime too. That's right. I get that Nanjo was in the lounge with Erika from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. What about before and after that? Well, Erika? Of course. First, the alibi for before 1 a.m. This is no problem at all. I played cards with the cousins in their room until midnight, and then went downstairs to the lounge, where I met Dr. Nanjo. That's right. At midnight, I met Erika-san as she was coming down the stairs, and spoke with her, learning that she was quite the connoisseur of the mystery genre. I realized that I'd found a kindred spirit. When I went into the archive to solve the epitaph's riddle, I noticed that there were several original copies of famous foreign mystery novels stored there. So I wanted to discuss them with the actual books in hand. We moved to the archive and were talking the whole time. Constantly, until we moved to the lounge. Oh my god, Cat. I hope not. One of those is enough. It's too much, really. The archive in the guest house had enough books in it that you might even call it a small library. In it were several famous foreign mystery novels that Kinzo had once taken a liking to. Of course, they were all originals and in English, but English was no problem for both Erika and Nanjo. On that occasion, Erika had again borrowed the key to the archive from Goda in the servant room. She added that she had rechecked the seal at that point and, of course, reset it. Damn her. Even though she keeps it sealed for anyone else to enter or leave, she alone enters and leaves whenever she wants. I see. So, from midnight until 3 a.m., when you went to bed, you were with Nanjo the whole time. That means Nanjo's alibi is the most rock-solid of them all. Yes, that is indeed the case. Repetition requested, my master. I'll respond. After midnight, Erika was with Nanjo the whole time until 3 a.m. At midnight, the crime in the cousin's room still hadn't occurred. So this establishes an alibi for the period before the time he spent in the lounge. After that, we walked out of the archive and into the hallway at 1 a.m. When we did, we just happened to bump into Rosa-san as she returned. I then told Goda-san about that. I figured it was probably a servant's responsibility to welcome in a guest.
Goda asked if she could bring a towel, but Rosa refused. She quickly headed up to the second floor. At this point, Erika, Goda, and Nanjo gathered together and decided to have a drink. Their alibis in the lounge up until 3 AM have already been proclaimed in red, so there are no problems there.
Let's continue on to after 3 AM. This is Dr. Nanjo's alibi after we split up. At 3 AM, Battler-san returned, and the people in the lounge went their separate ways. Dr. Nanjo, Battler-san, and I went up to the second floor. I then said goodnight to Dr. Nanjo. At this time, of course, I put a seal on the door to the doctor's room as well. And it went unchanged until the crime was discovered. I flew out of my room the moment Battler-san screamed, and I confirmed that the door to Dr. Nanjo's room was still sealed. Therefore, Dr. Nanjo's alibi is perfect both before 1 AM and after 3 AM.
Nanjo has an alibi. Therefore, it is not possible for him to have committed the crime.
Splendid, Erika. Both your seal and your red truth are perfect. Nanjo had the alibi of being with Erika until 3 AM, and he didn't leave his room after 3 AM until morning.
Using the seals she had placed on the doors, Erika was granted red truths from Berncastle, one after another. When I gave Beato a repetition request, it was about maneuvering and tactics, but it's totally different for Erika. For her, it's like having a trump card which can make red whenever she wants. Indeed, very convenient.
This concludes the proof of alibis for all suspects in the guest house. No problems, I assume?
I do have a problem. And that problem is, Beato racked her brains to find some point to latch onto, but Erika's red had been ruthlessly perfect. There was no point she could take issue with. Beato kept thinking hard, trying to fault Erika on something, but her expression was so wrought with desperation that anyone could tell by looking.
I'm overruling you, Beato. I can't sense any problems at all. It's totally pop, cute, and perfect. The alibis for all humans in the guest house have now been proven.
Hold it, Erika. You're gonna leave me out of this? I'm pretty sure Ushinomiya Battler also had a chance to commit the crime. After all, I was in the same room as the victims all night. There's no way I'll let you carry on this discussion while ignoring me.
What?
At that moment, an arrow twisted like a golden snake and hit me. It didn't pierce through me, but it slapped me hard on the cheek like a whip.
Battler-sama, your right to speak has not yet been recognized. Be warned.
Ow, damn it. Yeah, I understand, Battler. And my apologies. Forgive me. Erika, you still haven't shown an alibi for Battler. Battler is the man who was sleeping alongside the victims. Shouldn't he be placed under the greatest suspicion of all? Is it not possible that Battler in the guest house committed the crime?
Beato's right. You can't go skipping Battler like that. My apologies. I'd completely forgotten about him.
I don't believe you. I literally do not believe that. After Battler returned at 3 AM, You went upstairs with him. And I believe you also went to your room and slept. You may have gone to the cousin's room at midnight, but I don't think you went there after 3 a.m. Will you now claim that you went to crawl into Balor's bed later on? Of course. If you tell me you were looking at Balor's sleeping face all night long to confirm his alibi in the cousin's room, I might just be willing to accept your proof.
Yes. I listened to him breathing in his sleep all night long. Got a problem with that?
What?
I, Furudo Erika, can prove that Balor's son returned to the cousin's room at 3 a.m., that he went straight to bed afterwards, and that he went straight to sleep. And I can prove that until he woke up, noticed the gruesome situation the room was in, and let out a scream, nothing happened in that room. So you have no need to worry. Balor's son isn't the culprit. He's just the charming first discoverer who entered the murder scene without realizing it was one and slept until morning.
That's insane. Even with those seals you love so much, it shouldn't be possible for you to prove that. How can you prove this? That's a load of crap. I entered that room alone, and Erika must have gone into her own room as well. How could she say something like that as though she saw the whole thing? She never said that she saw it. The room Erika was assigned to. Where is it located?
Erika, tell me, please. How can you prove so much about Balor?
I'd expect no less from a true detective.
My room was right next to the cousin's room. There was only a single thin wall between them.
You don't mean... You put your ear against the wall to check what was happening in the cousin's room?
Yes. My ears are perfect. Right after Balor's son entered the room, I put my ear against the wall and listened carefully to make sure nothing out of the ordinary occurred. You said you could prove that nothing happened until Balor let out a scream the next morning. You don't mean... Yes. I put my ear against the wall and listened in on that room until morning, without sleeping a wink.
Erika, you're scary. Everyone was stunned into silence. She put her ear against the wall, and for the entire time until morning, she listened to what was going on in Balor's room. Just what would that have looked like? Until dawn, she had silenced her breathing in a pitch-black room, clinging to the wall shared with the cousin's room. Like some kind of creepy, venomous spider clinging to the wall of a darkened room. Berncastle alone was grinning in triumph. Due to the progression of the game, I realized that Balor, the one who had received the head's ring, would be a key player. I was sure that Balor would be a victim of the first Twilight.
Yes. So, just as my master told me to do, I put my ear against the wall until morning without a wink of sleep, checking to make sure nothing unusual happened.
Erika has a photographic memory, and her hearing ability is on par with a tape recorder. It would have been impossible for Balor to kill George and the others and slit their throats without Erika hearing it. It is impossible for Balor to have committed the crime. And therefore, it is not possible that he committed the crime. He has an alibi.
It's an accepted power of the detective's authority. I have no choice but to acknowledge it. I'll confirm it in red. Ushinomiya Battler returned to the cousin's room at 3 a.m. and fell asleep. After that, until the discovery of the crime, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary happened in the room.
In other words, it was impossible for Battler to commit murder or damage the corpses.
The red from the two of them forced Beato to show an expression of considerable anguish. It was only natural. The red truth they had spoken not only guaranteed Balor's alibi, but a number of other things as well. First off, it meant the murder was impossible for anyone after 3 a.m. And since the cousins were confirmed to be alive as late as midnight, the time period of the crime automatically became between midnight and 3 o'clock. That also automatically provided a guaranteed alibi for everyone who wasn't in the guest house before 3 a.m. It is impossible for the crime to have occurred after 3 a.m. Well, that one hurts a lot. After midnight, Erika was in the guest house the whole time, so it should have been difficult for her to prove alibis for all the people in the island, in the mansion. It should have been almost impossible to prove alibis for Ava and the others. But now, all she has to do is prove that they never visited the guest house between midnight and 3 a.m. And she can prove those alibis. Anyway, we'll have to construct it so that the murders were possible before 3 a.m. And we have to prove that it was possible for one of the people in the mansion to do it. The people who were in the guest house all had alibis. The crime didn't occur before midnight. The crime couldn't have occurred after 3 o'clock. In other words, there was no way for the murders to happen unless someone from the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 o'clock. What if someone in the mansion committed the crime between midnight and 3 a.m.? In order to protect Natsuhi, she had to establish that it was possible for someone other than Natsuhi to commit the crime. Ironically, the witch had to prove that a human could have committed the crime. Still, that's a tall order. Until 3 a.m., Erika was in the lounge, and you have to pass through there to get upstairs. In other words, she's practically like a sentry for the upstairs floor of the guest house. This is an unimaginative suggestion, but if it was possible to reach the upper floor without Erika noticing, we would probably be able to prove that the crime was possible for anyone. It's probably possible for a human to climb up to the second-story windows if they really wanted to. What if the second floor was reachable without going past Erika in the lounge? Of course, Beato had also thought of striking back that way, and Bernkastel must have thought this as well. Or maybe it was Kinzo, yeah. I think he is on the list, right? Bandler, Nanjo, Goda, Kumasawa. We realized that the crime was impossible for all these people in the guest house. However, what about the humans in the mansion?
As I have already said,
and as my master has even proclaimed but the red truth, I was in the lounge on the first floor of the guest house, and to reach the second floor, one must pass through the lounge. In other words, it was impossible to reach the second floor without me seeing it. And what if that wasn't impossible? For example, what if someone placed a ladder against the outer wall of the guest house and stuck in through a second-story window? There must be a way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. If this is the case, it would be possible to reach the crime scene without you seeing it. Beato finally struck back. Before now, she had let Erika take total control and attack her with the red over and over. During that time, Beato's counterattacks with the blue truth had been few in number, even including this one.
Of course, I knew you'd try saying that. I can't have my lookout in the lounge become meaningless. So first, I must prove that my lookout was perfect. Firstly, because of how the guest house is constructed, it is impossible to reach the second floor without me seeing it from the lounge. There are no places under cover, and neither are there any physical or mental blind spots. My master, I request you repeat. It is impossible for someone to reach the second floor of the guest house without anyone in that lounge noticing it. Though, of course, this only refers to reaching the second floor from inside the building. Good, my master. So, next is Lady Beatrice's theory that there might be a way to reach the second floor from the outside. This really does pose a problem. After all, there are trees that could probably be climbed, and someone could have used the ladder. We also can't be certain that crawling up the rain gutter would be impossible. But I can't let you do that.
Oh, you won't let me? And how's that? Did you stay up all night circling the guest house? No, you could do that, could you? You were in the lounge. From the lounge, you can only see a small part of the outer perimeter through the window.
That's true. I couldn't prevent all methods of climbing up to the second floor from the outside. However, I was able to prevent all entry from the second floor. Prevent entry?
I had already foreseen this move. Frightening, and so persistent.
Because of how the guest house is constructed, the only method of entry from the second floor is the windows. The locks, they don't matter at all. I only had to prove that none of the windows or shutters were opened even once. After I witnessed the location of the hidden gold, I returned to the guest house, and immediately began severing all methods of entry to the second floor that didn't pass through the lounge. Yes, it's exactly the same. No different from the rest. Don't tell me you use that seal of yours on all the windows of the guest house. In that weather? Dressed like that? Well, I did have my swimsuit from when I drifted here.
She's insane. At a house where she was welcomed as a guest, before anything had happened at all, she went out in all that rain and did something like that?
For a normal human, it would certainly be an impossibly dubious action. However, she is the witch's piece.
In the middle of all that rain, Erika sealed all the windows from the outside to create an alibi, showing that no one could have snuck into the guest house from the outside. She climbed up the walls herself and did that to all the windows on the first and second floor. No, to all things which could possibly have permitted entry. After hearing that she'd listened to the cousin's room all night long without sleeping a wink, even this bizarre behavior didn't seem quite so impossible. That it also probably looked like a venomous spider.
A repulsive, venomous spider crawling eerily over the outer walls of the guest house in the middle of a storm. What do you think of the house of Shiromiya? Is this how you repay us for welcoming you as a guest?
To the detective, the Ushinomiya house is nothing more or less than the stage upon which the crime occurs. Before the outbreak of the crime, it was important to me to memorize the names of the characters, memorize the lay of the land, and prepare for the upcoming crime by devoting my time towards collecting and creating all possible alibis. From my perspective, detectives who make no preparations before the outbreak of the crime are pretty third-rate. After all, we all know that someone will die wherever we spend the night. Furthermore, at the moment the crime was discovered, Erika confirmed that none of those seals had been broken. That's why Erika wasn't the first to reach the cousin's room when the corpses were discovered. Even without inspecting the corpses, she could be certain of several things thanks to the red truth. It was more important to check the seals and construct alibis. You are perfect, my master. All I did was prove everything to perfection by following your orders. Well done, Erika. My double. My piece. What do you think, Lambda? I'd say this proves that Erika's lookout in the lounge contains absolute reliability as far as constructing alibis is concerned. There is no way to reach the second floor without passing through the lounge. Well, 5 options left. Yeah, I'll acknowledge that. Erika, your seal is perfect. I'll acknowledge it in med. It was impossible to reach the second floor of the guest house without passing through the lounge, and impossible to reach it at all without Erika, who was in the lounge, knowing about it. Thank you very much, Lady Lambda Delta.
Sorry, pronouncing things is hard.
So, you know what's coming next, Great Lady Beatrice. Therefore, the time of the crime is limited to the single hour between midnight, when they were confirmed to be alive, and 1 AM, when our party in the lounge started. I've already said it, but at midnight, I went down to the lounge, hit it off with Dr. Nanjo, and was engrossed by a discussion of the mystery genre in the archive until 1 AM. It's a bit embarrassing, but I grew so engrossed with this discussion that I wouldn't have noticed if anyone had passed through the corridor during that period. Quite a regretful mistake for a detective.
I mean, on the other hand, if your surveillance was that perfect, no one would have the opportunity to commit a crime. So really, are detectives just people who allow crimes to happen then? Like, from her reasoning? It's like, oh, you know a crime's gonna happen. And then you investigate. It's like, you just stand back and let people murder each other, and then you're like, oh shit, I know what happened. That's fucked up. She's like an intelligence agency, but like... she lets the crime happen. It's like a corrupt government or something. She needs to eat too? Yeah, I guess that's fair. After doing all that maneuvering, and setting up seals to guarantee a perfect alibi, she became too engrossed in a mystery discussion and left him opening. Her relaxed smile was completely shameless, the total opposite of her words. It almost seems like it's the other way around. It's enough to make you think that this is an intentional trap, set in full awareness that only Natsuhi doesn't have an alibi for the hour following midnight.
To put it the other way around, this has the following corollary. The only ones who could have reached the cousin's room and committed the crime are those who have no alibi between midnight and 1 AM.
Her eyes clearly hinted that Natsuhi was the only one who fit this description. The crime was only possible between midnight and 1 AM. It had been a crime that occurred at a completely unknown point during that long night. But because of all the alibis Erika had constructed, that time period had been compressed and restricted to the single hour following midnight. Erika left the cousin's room at midnight. This is the last time we have confirmation that George and the others were alive. And after the party in the lounge started at 1 AM, it was impossible to reach the cousin's room by any method. All this for a mere human. This is quite bad. The night has been sealed up into an hour, and at this rate, there won't be many pieces left to suspect. Damn you, Lady Berncastle. Not bad at all. Unlike Battler, I'm not an idiot. After this game's repeated 5 times, I have more than enough cards in my hand. Yeah, Erika is definitely assuming that, like, there was a single culprit. But I guess the situation really only allows space for, like, one, because it's so, you know, it's only 1 hour. They need to have been in specific locations or taken a specific route. But there are some gaps in the logic. Like, yes, single culprit. Because, I mean, what if one of the cousins murdered the others or something, you know? And there's some other gaps that they're just not looking into at all. I wonder why.
Then, let us continue. Let's examine the alibis of the remaining suspects, the people in the mansion. After all, we only have to worry about the single hour between midnight and 1 AM. That shouldn't be difficult at all. First, midnight. At this time, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in the 2nd floor corridor, and all of the others were in the 1st floor dining hall. This has already been given in red truth by my master. Yes, that's right. At midnight, Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji were in the corridor on the 2nd floor of the mansion. The rest of them were in the dining hall on the 1st floor. And, as you know, there is a mysterious knock and a letter with a one-winged seal in it appeared. The discussion surrounding that continued on until 1 AM. I will say it with the red truth. Of all the people in the dining hall, not one of them left the dining hall until 1 AM. Excluding Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji, none of the people in the mansion left the mansion before 1. I mean, yeah, it's because we know that Natsuhi didn't do it. It's easy for us to be like, well, she obviously didn't do it.
But they are, like, there are some glaring holes in the story that they are presenting. Like, I'm not gonna say anymore. The time that the crime was possible had been limited to between midnight and 1 o'clock. And it had been guaranteed that the adults in the family conference did not leave the mansion between midnight and 1 o'clock. This gave them all proven alibis. And how do you intend to prove that? Erika's in the guest house. Did someone prove it by using one of your favorite seals on the dining hall door? You have no convincing evidence or proof. The red truth is simply truth, and there is no need to provide evidence, proof, or room for a counter-argument. You made that rule. This overbearing red truth hadn't only given alibis to the adults in the dining hall, it also gave alibis to Shannon and Connell, who had come to serve tea, and even guaranteed that they never left the dining hall. In other words, the only ones who didn't have proven alibis were 3 people: Natsuhi, Kraus, and Genji. No, there were only 2 left. If alibis were proven for Kraus and Genji, it would prove that no one but Natsuhi could have been the culprit.
Let's move on to Genji. He's a victim, but we can't rule out the possibility that he committed the crime in the cousin's room and then was killed himself. And, furthermore, although he was in the 2nd floor corridor at midnight, he then returned to the servant room to transfer the phone call for Natsuhi and was completely isolated. Is it not possible that Genji, in the mansion, committed the crime? Which means that it was possible for Genji to commit the crime. I'll say it in red. When Genji finished transferring the call, he immediately returned to the servants' quarters. That's just a cold, hard truth, without any evidence, proof, seals, or alibis. Got it? Then, at 1 a.m., there was another break in the family conference, and Rosa returned to the guest house. At that time, I'm truly thankful for your cooperation, Ushiromiya Eva-san. Please rise.
Erika-chan wasn't the only one, you know. I was also certain that something would happen that night.
She's the person who taught me how to make those seals, and she helped me to check the alibis of those people under suspicion.
During the break at 1 a.m., I went to Genji-san's quarters and used the same seal as Erika-chan. In other words, if this wasn't broken, it would mean that no one could have entered or left that room between 1 a.m. and the next morning. The murder of Genji is also restricted to the interval of midnight to 1.
Now, Kanon-san and Kumasawa-san, please rise.
Kanon rose expressionlessly, and Kumasawa got to her feet timidly.
In the morning, you two went to wake Genji-san because he had slept in, right? And at that time, you noticed that the door was sealed, broke the seal, and opened the door, correct?
Yes. I thought it was some kind of prank.
I didn't think deeply about it at the time. I'm not asking for your opinions, just give us the facts. Did you break the seal when you entered the room?
Yes. With the red truth, I'll guarantee that Eva, Kanon, and Kumasawa's statements just now are the truth. At 1 a.m., Eva sealed Genji's sleeping quarters, and that seal was broken by Kanon and Kumasawa in the morning when the crime was discovered.
just to save time, I'll add on some more. During the short break at 1 AM, the first two to leave the dining hall were Rosa and Ava. Until Ava returned, everyone in the dining hall remained there. After seeing Rosa off, Ava went to the sleeping quarters and sealed it. Of course, she did not enter the room at all at this time. This is all information I discovered by gathering it from the people involved. These are not baseless red truths. They are truths I arrived at through proper reasoning constructed from testimony. And not only testimony, I took fingerprints and performed every kind of forensic test available to me. How? After all, Kinzo-san's study is a treasure trove of all kinds of chemicals. I obtained all sorts of scientific evidence, which is truth in its purest form, and infinitely close to red truth. However, this isn't a science mystery, so I'll spare you the details.
No. No! Tell me more! When'd you do all this? She's the worst. It's like, oh yeah, I did CSI shit. I'm not gonna tell you though. How dare you. As Erika swaggered around the cathedral, she arrogantly touted her scientific knowledge. She had thorough knowledge of all the chemicals in Kinzo's study, and had used them to conduct a scientific investigation, which had now been acknowledged and made into red truth by Bernkastel. Without going into too much detail, the results she had obtained would have been convincing even without the red truth. Fingerprint collection with aluminum powder. Composition analysis on the mud under people's shoes. Various chemical reactions from clinging rainwater. Erika had walked in and out of the study that didn't belong to her several times, using all manner of chemicals however she pleased without asking the family's permission. However, no one could fault her for this. The pieces couldn't hinder any action the detective might take for the investigation. That was the power of the detective's authority. You act like you own the place. From now on, I'll warn everyone I meet never to welcome in any guest who calls themselves a detective.
I believe that would be wise. Giving shelter to a detective is just about the worst omen of misfortune out there.
I mean, people do die wherever they show up.
This is proof that it was only possible to reach Genji's sleeping quarters and commit the crime. Between midnight and 1 AM, just as with the murders in the guest house. And furthermore, Erika's investigation also proved that it was impossible for Genji to reach the cousin's room.
It had already been made clear in Red Truth that, after transferring the phone call to Natsuhi, Genji had gone straight back to the servants' quarters. Now, based on the results of Erika's scientific investigation, they added a further Red Truth. Genji never left the mansion after midnight. This made it clear beyond doubt that Genji couldn't have reached the guest house, much less the cousin's room. Genji has an alibi. Therefore, it is not possible that he committed the crime. Oh shit.
That leaves only Kraus and Natsuhi. All other people have had their alibis proven.
Impossible. Also, thank you for redeeming your save reminder. I will save and drink some water because I need to drink some water. I'm doing it. Is this Asiel? Asiel? No, it's Patchwork Chimera, okay. I mix the songs up sometimes. I really like this one though. This might be the first time that we're hearing this one. Yeah, I think it's the first time that this one showed up. So that's cool. Yeah, I wonder, for some of the songs it's super obvious what they mean, and for some of them I'm like, I don't know, what's this? Yeah, a chimera is a patchwork by definition now that you mention it. Yeah. So it's like chimera. Though for me, patchwork also brings to mind like, you know, like, I don't know, sewing tears in clothing, or like, you know, Frankenstein's monster or a quilt, you know, yeah. So maybe it's like it's a chimera, but like a stitched together one, like a fake one. I don't know. Maybe there's lore there. Maybe I can look it up later and find some cool stuff about the song. But all I know for now is that it just sounds real good. Alright, I'm ready. Natsuhi's mouth flapped open and shut like a goldfish starved of oxygen. And that was an accurate analogy. Natsuhi's mind was blank and spinning out of control, and she felt as though she really would suffocate. Ushiromiya Natsuhi, I'll give you one last chance. Confess that all of the crimes were the work of your husband. Don't be ridiculous. Do I look like the kind of woman who would falsely accuse her husband? Beato, Natsuhi's denied it. I'll give you the same chance. You understand, right? Please don't tell me that you expect to be able to take advantage of the fact that Kraus is missing to try and pull a devil's proof on me. Is it not possible that Kraus in the mansion committed the crime? He does have motive. Beato realized that they were rapidly approaching the end of this battle. Normally, these alibis of Erika's would still have many places that Beato could argue against using the blue truth. However, all of those alibis had been accepted by Bernkastel and Blenda Delta as red truth, and Beato no longer had any room to argue. It's like Erika's creating the plotline, and those witches are distorting things so that everything matches up with it. That's right. If the Game Master, Lady Lambda Delta, accepts the truth, its authenticity will not be questioned. The world that comes after will be formed based on the truth that remains in the red, in the end, not the red. This happens no matter how far this final truth is from the real truth. Hey Chris, thank you for the raid. How are you doing? How was the stream? What did you play? Thank you again. Hi raiders, welcome to the stream. Actually, good time to pop up the content warning because we are not playing a happy fun time game. There's some bad stuff that happens. Although we are in basically a courtroom scene. It's like, supernatural Ace Attorney, I guess, a little bit. People yell objection at each other. Our protagonists are currently very much cornered, and I can pretty much promise that none of this is going to make sense to you unless you've been following the whole series, so I'm very sorry about that. Hey guys, I hope you're doing good. Follower emotes can't be used in raids? That seems silly. Hearts of Iron, I've never heard of that. Is it good? Yeah, I'll take this opportunity to drink some water. You think so? Yeah, well that's good. Oh, I see, that's cool. Well, awesome, I'm glad it was good. It's weird, Twitch gives people all these emotes and then it's like, okay, but you can't use them though. Speaking of new emotes, I got new ones recently, so check those out. You can invent tanks and name them after viewers, that's great. Hopefully I can make it to the next stream. Alright. Back to reading. But thank you again. And, I hope you're doing good. I hope you're having a good night in general, and all that jazz. I'm repeating myself. I see. There's no way Uncle Kraus is the culprit. He's being held prisoner somewhere. Wait. We can't deny the possibility that Natsuhi was skillfully tricked into believing that during the phone call. Do you suspect Natsuhi and Kraus, Balor-kun? Well... Erika's truth has been constructed in a cowardly fashion, but it is a proper truth. She may be colluding with a witch, but it has still been acknowledged as red truth. In other words, it cannot be a fake truth built only on lies. This means that even Erika's truth makes sense. The truth about Natsuhi and Kraus being the culprits is also very possible. It may be a hollow truth, but it is consistent. It's a fiction that holds the same worth as truth. Which of those two truths will you believe? That is for you to decide. No, I'll trust Aunt Natsuhi and Uncle Kraus. I realize that they're in some money trouble, but even so, I don't want to believe that they're the culprits. No, I can't believe it. How do you intend to get Natsuhi out of this position, where she's so cornered by Red, which is slowly but surely closing in on her? I don't know. But I seriously don't want to give up. Aunt Natsuhi's been caught in a cowardly trap, that's all. And Erika's reasoning is all part of it. So whether it's intentional or she's being manipulated, Erika is aiding the true culprit. Even if Erika has accused Aunt Natsuhi of being the culprit, and even if everyone else here believes that, that's exactly why I want to be the one person who trusts her. I love him. He's the best. If everyone assumes it's true, does it become the truth? If everyone accepts a lie, does it become the truth? Must the solitary truth-teller be dragged to the guillotine, to the jeers of liars? I don't like it. If no one will believe Aunt Natsuhi, then I will. Real truth isn't something that's determined when everyone thinks something sounds reasonable. It's something you arrive at after thoroughly investigating both possibilities. So this trial is a downright lie. It's a kangaroo court that exists for no reason other than to set Aunt Natsuhi up as the culprit. Beato is doing all she can to plead Natsuhi's case, you know. Wrong. Beato is trying to refute Erika's argument. She's just defending. You can't fight in this trial by simply resisting all of your opponent's claims. This is why Beato always cornered me in the past. She isn't going to beat Erika by finding flaws in her reasoning. She has to find a different truth and show Lambda Delta the ruler of this game. But her truth is more correct than Erika's. Without violating any of the red truths that Lady Burncastle has shown, can you weave together a truth where Natsuhi isn't the culprit? I don't know. But as long as I don't believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, there's got to be a different truth. I don't even care if the culprit for the crime ends up being a witch. Dangerous words, Valor. That's better than having Aunt Natsuhi be framed by an incorrect truth. So, no matter how much red truth you are shown, you won't believe that Natsuhi is the culprit, correct? Yeah. For everything, there should always be some people who believe, and some who don't. No matter how much evidence is stacked up against her, someone has to believe that she's innocent. Again, Valor, dangerous words. Not really how that works. I appreciate the spirit, though. I'm sure there are countless truths in the world that can't be proven with evidence. I don't ever want to accept that something's true just because everyone says it is. How can you be sure that there's nothing on the far side of the moon if you've never seen it? Is there some reason that you have to believe it? Until you see the far side of the moon with your own eyes, you can't rule out the possibility that nothing is there. And neither can you rule out the possibility of a thriving culture of space bunnies. You should never assume something is the truth until you actually check it. This court is maliciously trying to force a single interpretation on a truth that can't be checked. I once believed that there was a society on the far side of the moon. But that was in elementary school, and it was made fun of and laughed at. So I thought it was embarrassing to think that a society lives on the moon. And I threw away that belief. I'd been told by a book my mom read me that rabbits lived on the far side of the moon. And I believed that, for a long, long time. But when everyone said that was wrong, I abandoned that truth without even trying to check it. Even without evidence, I abandoned the truth I believed in. And now, everyone is starting to believe that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit, even though not a single piece of decisive proof has been shown. There's no proof, but Erika's words sound reasonable, so they're probably the truth? That's your reason to abandon your belief that Aunt Natsuhi is innocent? Yeah, he doesn't mention his mom much, but whenever he does, it's always like in a really positive light, which I think is cute and sweet. I was laughing a little bit just now because while his reasoning technically is correct and can be used in a situation like this, it can also be, as you just kind of proved, used to argue just complete nonsense. And I've run into some of the weird stuff people believe at work sometimes. And oh boy. Like, yes, don't believe everything you see out there, but don't think that just because something goes counter to what most people believe, it's wrong. Like, there should be a little more nuance there, I think. If no one else will believe, then I will. I believe that real truth only surfaces if you look with both eyes, one denying and one affirming. No matter how much they try to make Aunt Natsuhi out to be the culprit, it's my belief that she isn't. And I'll never give that up. One denying, one affirming. You just said it yourself, Battler. Come on. You really are a himbo.
I understand. Then allow me to grant you a single red truth. This is the single bit of power I will give you, now that you hold the will to fight in the truest sense. Power? By the name of the finite witch, Virgilia. No, as the former witch, Beatrice, I grant you this red truth. Ushiromiya Natsuhi is not the culprit. Plea bargain. If you acknowledge that Kraus is the culprit, Erika will cease her pursuit of Natsuhi. From then on, the investigation will proceed assuming that Kraus, whose location is unknown, is the culprit.
What'll you do, Beato? At this rate, Natsuhi's in serious trouble, right? Will you accept the plea bargain? If you're willing to abandon this Ushiromiya family honor thing, Vern says she'll let you off with a draw. She's being really soft on you, you know?
Kraus was currently missing, and it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Like Kinzo, he was no different than a cat in a box that had disappeared into the mists of the island. The cat in the box is a creature of infinite variation. No interpretation of it can be denied. It is the root of endless interpretations. The true source of the endless witch's power. In other words, no matter how much Bernkastel were to claim that Kraus was the culprit, she wouldn't be able to make that the sole truth. That is, the Kraus culprit theory and the witch theory could exist in almost perfect balance. Beato could make the game a draw. Bernkastel was tempting her. She was offering her a second chance if she would abandon the honor of the family she'd sworn to protect, and consent to weaving a fragment that would trample all over that honor. There was no room for false confidence. For Beato, to lose was to die. Unless she could see herself having an overwhelming advantage in this game, the right move had to be to actively pursue a draw. I will not allow you to call my husband a killer. My husband is the next in line to the Ushiromiya family headship. The one person who will inherit the glory of the Ushiromiya family. I will never allow you to brand him as a criminal. Are you sure, Natsuhi? If you refuse to suspect Kraus, then you'll be the only one left. Alibis have been proven for everyone else. In other words, Hempel's Raven. Even without any evidence, it will be determined that you are the culprit. And so what if I'm the only one left? I'm Ushiromiya Natsuhi. I will not run or hide. I'm innocent. And I am the representative of the noble head with the one-winged eagle engraved into my heart. If you wish to insult me, go ahead. If you wish to ridicule me, do as you please. But none of you can damage my honor with fiction. With a dignified voice, Natsuhi stated her case openly before the witches above her. However, this response of hers might have been exactly what Bernkastel had intended. Natsuhi refuses the deal. And you, Beato? You understand, right? The instant Natsuhi is singled out, Lambda will deliver her verdict. As soon as that happens, the witch illusion will be denied, and you'll vanish into mist. Do you plan to let Natsuhi's foolish stubbornness drag you down to the depths of hell? Riche, you fought well. Now's the time to withdraw.
Convince Natsuhi and try to work out a compromise. Both Lady Lambda Delta and Lady Berncastle have Borden, not you, as their true enemy. I imagine they would like to play this game over again. If they see that you're willing to make a concession, they will most likely accept it gladly, and move on to the next game. If we move on to the next game, then what will happen to the Natsuhi of this game? The Natsuhi of this fragment? Now isn't the time to be worrying about that. Natsuhi's just a piece. Even if she gets removed from this game, she'll show up again in the next one. But the same does not hold for you, milady. Through this game, I believe you have learned the moves that Lady Lambda Delta has up her sleeves. It's a more realistic goal to make use of that and aim for victory in the next game instead. Accepting Lady Berncastle's deal might be your one and only good option right now. Throw away that useless pride of yours. Neither Kasparov nor Deep Blue won every game. The person that wins more games wins in the end, right? If a witch gets too attached to a single match, a single life, a single piece, that witch dies. My apologies, but I cannot do that. I know the strength of a man who believed even though everyone said he was wrong. And I know the suffering he went through when he was forced to abandon that belief. I will not abandon Natsuhi. Why? Because if everyone else suspects Natsuhi, then someone has to believe in her. Because truth can only be found in the gap between those who doubt and those who believe. I won't abandon her. Even if everyone believes that Natsuhi is the culprit, I will still claim that a witch is responsible. If I can't even make that claim, my existence isn't worth anything. I can't afford to lose. Truth isn't for anyone to deny. It's something that disappears when you doubt it and abandon it yourself.
Is that your answer, Beato?
Yes, of course I refuse. Ushinomiya Krause is not the culprit. Ushinomiya Krause is not the culprit. Which leaves us with only one option out of all these. Shouldn't Beatrice be calling witnesses? I mean, she could, I think. And yeah, Beatrice cannot use the red right now because she's a piece. Just like how Erika can't do it. And yes, he could technically still be the culprit, but I'm sure we'll get into that right now.
Fool. There'll be no coming back from this, you know. Here's what you get for being a quick-tempered moron. By the name of Berncastle, Witch of Miracles, I speak with the red truth. Ushinomiya Krause is not the culprit, and he was killed long ago. Shortly after you heard his voice over the phone, in fact.
No. Darling. Berncastle's cruel and ruthless red blade gouged Natsuhi. It was all too merciless. The lack of knowledge of whether Krause was alive or dead had almost crushed Natsuhi with anxiety, but she had at least been capable of believing that he was alive. And now, that hope, that expectation, had been crushed, without any chance for a miracle. She had thrown herself into this trap out of concern for her husband's safety. With the loss of her daughter and husband, she had now lost everything she had gained since marrying into the Ushinomiya family. No, even after all this, one thing still remained. If her husband was lost, then right now, she was the last person who could protect the honor of the Ushinomiya family, she still couldn't let it end here. Even wrapped up in so much sadness, Natsuhi would do all she could to protect that honor with her last ounce of strength.
Nope, it's all over. It's been determined with the red truth that none of the remaining people in the dining hall left that room until 1 o'clock. In other words, alibis have already been proven for everyone except Natsuhi.
Excluding Natsuhi, everyone in the mansion has an alibi. And therefore none of them could have committed the crime.
Well done, Erika and Bernkastel. You've fully proven that the crime was impossible for everyone except Ushinomiya Natsuhi. Why don't I start reading aloud from the verdict? At midnight on October 4th, 1986, the defendant, Ushinomiya Natsuhi, left before the others while pretending to return to her room to sleep, and murdered George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji one after another during the 1 hour period before 1 AM.
Let me add something on. Due to circumstantial evidence, include the murder of Kraus.
Yeah, that's right. In this situation, it's unthinkable that anyone except Natsuhi could kill Kraus. A revision to the verdict. During the hour before 1 AM, Ushinomiya Natsuhi killed Kraus, George, Jessica, Maria, Rosa, and Genji, one after another. It's only possible for any of these murders to have taken place between midnight and 1 o'clock. The only person without an alibi during this time was Ushinomiya Natsuhi. From this point onward, the game will proceed treating the defendant as the true culprit. Furthermore, because it has been fully proven that the crime was possible for humans, Beatrice, the Endless Witch, this Court of Illusions hereby denies your existence. You have a chance to plead your case. Can you prove an alibi for Natsuhi? Or can you show the possibility of someone other than Natsuhi being responsible? If you can just do that, Natsuhi will stop at being one shade short of absolutely guilty, and the denial of their existence will be put on hold for this game.
If Natsuhi had an alibi, Beata would have shown it long ago. In fact, wasn't the whole point of that trap to make her lose her alibi? Even if her alibi is not proven, I will believe in Natsuhi's innocence, no matter how much you all tried to pin your fake truth on her. I am the true culprit. Natsuhi is innocent, even without any proof. The truth is known only by the Master of the Night on this island, Beatrice the Golden. I'm Ushinomiya Natsuhi. Now that my husband has passed away, I am the head of the Ushinomiya family. My spirit will not be broken, no matter how you try and humiliate me. Why, you ask? It is because Father gave me permission to engrave the crest of the one-winged eagle into my heart. How can your evidence and alibis negate the honor and the crest engraved into my heart? They cannot. The Ushinomiya crest emblazoned on my heart is immortal. Now that Natsuhi and Beatrice had practically been placed on the guillotine, sorry, I'm a little tired, they cried out with all the strength of their determination. However, that did nothing except bring a cold smile to the Game Master Lambda Delta's face. Erika had constructed a truth that Lambda Delta could accept, and no one could construct a more convincing truth to deny Erika's. In that case, the most convincing truth would swallow up everything else, and become the one and only truth. Even if it happened to be different from the real truth. The truth of those in the past is swallowed up by the truth of those in the future, even if that truth is a fiction, as long as everyone acknowledges it to be true. You're all bark and bluster. I like it best when witches sob and beg for their lives when they're about to be burned at the stake. When they try and act tough like you do, it's such a buzzkill. So I think I'll send you one final gift. A red truth to crush your bluster once and for all. What do you mean? Don't, Lady Burncastle. Isn't it already going to be overwritten with the truth you desired? Your truth and Natsuhi should be able to coexist. Please, don't defile it. Please. Natsuhi, when did Kinzo ever say it was okay for you to engrave the one-winged eagle into your heart? Those were just the words of the Kinzo from your delusions. The real Kinzo, throughout his entire life, not once did he ever trust you from the bottom of his heart, and not once did he ever consider letting you bear the family crest. When that heartless announcement was made, Kinzo stood up. Natsuhi, you need not listen to this. No one can defile the crest engraved in your heart. That is yours alone. Do not ever forget your pride as the final head of the Ushinomiya family. Natsuhi! Just shut up and disappear. You putrid delusion. Vomit of Natsuhi's mind. You can't erase me. You can't erase my soul. Not as long as Natsuhi continues to engrave the crest into her heart. You lying illusion. The real Kinzo would never say such a thing. Be gone. You fantasy of Kinzo inside Natsuhi's mind, beautified by her to suit her own purposes. Natsuhi. Bright red flashes of lightning smashed Kinzo over and over again as he screamed. Then, he crumpled like a doll and sat back down in his chair as though nothing had happened. The fierce emotion had left Kinzo's face. He had truly become like a wax model. And so, he would never again share kind words with Natsuhi. Yes, the true Kinzo never once trusted Natsuhi during his entire life. The true Kinzo never once thought about allowing Natsuhi to bear the one-winged eagle. Although it doesn't deserve repeating, Kinzo had already passed away before the game began. The Kinzo appearing in this game was nothing more than Natsuhi's delusion. Everything about this Kinzo, who believed in Natsuhi and entrusted her with protecting the family honor, was an illusion created by Natsuhi. Pitiful woman, now's the time for you to face the truth that you never gained Ushinomiya Kinzo's trust, as long as he lived. Natsuhi, don't cry. Kinzo entrusted the Ushinomiya family to you, did he not? No, he didn't. Not only did he not entrust her with that, he never said hello, or met her gaze even once. Crying noise. One day I'll be able to just do that at the drop of a hat, but no. Not just yet. Natsuhi's cry, a mixture of sadness and many other emotions, echoed throughout the cathedral. Natsuhi could no longer stop her tears. Some last faint element that had cheered her up until today, that had allowed her to endure as an Ushiromiya, as the wife to the head's representative, and as the final family head, had been torn to bits. Natsuhi no longer had anything left. Natsuhi could no longer even allow herself, could no longer allow herself to even call herself an Ushiromiya. And this is why I feel sorry for her. The difficult days, the painful days, the days where she still gave everything she could for the family she'd married into, despite it all. The rare happy days that existed among them. All of these flitted through her mind, one after another, and disappeared. All of those once beautiful memories, now crushed by Berncastle's red truth, smashed into tiny shards that scattered everywhere, buried themselves deep into her hands, and soaked them red with the blood of sorrow. It was the red of sadness and truth.
That is all. All it takes is the presence of this crime. And a deduction like this becomes trivial for Furudo Erika. Your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
Lambda Delta clapped. Then, a little later than expected, Berncastle began to clap as well, looking satisfied. The expressionless, wax figure-like audience followed suit, and the unshakable verdict was welcomed with great applause. And so, the truth of this tale was decided. I love this song. Is it Discolor? Yes. Sorry. Right now, no humans exist on this island except for those in this parlor. And with the one exception, it has been shown that none of them have committed murder. And the culprit is among these people. Yeah, episode 5 has some of my favorites. Whoa. In that case, it's conclusive, isn't it? Unless the culprit is a witch who committed the murder with magic, that is. It was you? You killed George? Killed my husband? Why? Why? I didn't kill anyone. I didn't do... In a panic, and with a voice that really couldn't be called flowing. In a manner that was, to put it coldly, unsightly, Aunt Natsuhi denied the suspicion placed upon her. However, there was no longer any way around it. The girl stood up, brushed back her long hair, pointed at Aunt Natsuhi, and said it one more time.
You are the culprit, Ushiromiya Natsuhi-san.
Red-faced and tear-streaked, Eva walked up to Natsuhi and grabbed her by the collar. Then, wordlessly, she slapped Natsuhi's cheek. Natsuhi, who had never been slapped in her life, was shocked by her first ever taste of iron. It turned into a scuffle between Eva and Natsuhi. Battler immediately tried to stop them, but Eva planted a sharp knee into Battler's gut and he doubled over. Eva, what the fuck? Give them back! Give back George and my husband! Why did you kill them? You murderer! Murderer! Sobbing, Eva kicked Natsuhi, who had fallen to the ground, over and over. Battler tried once more to cut in and stop them, but he was brushed aside. And after that, no one tried to stop them. Repeating her son and husband's names over and over, Eva kicked Natsuhi, and kicked her. Then she started grabbing whatever her eyes fell upon and throwing it. Natsuhi was hit with a steaming teacup, then with a can of black tea, whose tea leaves fell out all over her. She was kicked, her hair pulled and dragged up, her cheek slapped so many times that it started to swell. No one tried to stop it. It wasn't because they were worried about Eva kicking them too. It was because they thought it an appropriate act of retribution for a person who had lost her beloved son and husband. A proper retribution. A proper truth. Everyone in the parlor accepted that Natsuhi was the culprit. They accepted the truth that Erika claimed. So it became a proper truth, and Natsuhi was designated as the proper culprit. She had already lost the husband and daughter who would have protected her, and even Kinzo, who should have given her a final bit of strength, had already vanished like a bubble in the ocean of illusions. No longer would anyone protect her. No longer would anyone believe her. So she was now the true culprit. Eva's shoulders heaved with her heavy breathing. Apparently, her anger still hadn't abated. Erika patted Eva's shoulder and made her take a step back. Of course, this wasn't to protect Natsuhi from violence. It was to further humiliate her, now that she had been branded as the culprit.
Natsuhi-san, I've solved 2 of the 3 riddles. The whodunit, the howdunit. The final riddle, the whydunit, must always be confessed by the culprit herself. Please follow the rules of the mystery genre and confess.
The whydunit refers to the motive.
If this was a third-rate mystery, you will let out a high-pitched laugh about now, confess to the crime, and start telling the story of your sad past. Don't tell me you intend to make me explain that part as well.
I'm not the culprit. Someone, believe me. I had my husband taken hostage and I was blackmailed. I was framed. Natsuhi, with her hair a mess and her face red and tear-streaked, protested to everyone, but no one met her gaze. Because it had already been resolved that Natsuhi was the culprit. Because Lambda Delta had acknowledged that the culprit of the tale was Natsuhi, and woven it that way. None of the pieces would pay any heed to Natsuhi's, to the culprit's words. Which I guess is why Kiria didn't object? Maybe? She's smarter than this, I feel like. Natsuhi isn't the culprit. I'm the Golden Witch, Beatrice. I'm the one who commands Rokajima's night, and who has reigned since long before the time you were all still scared of the dark. Why can't you just call it my sin? Why must you suspect Natsuhi? Acknowledge me. I committed all the crimes. It cannot be the work of a human. It cannot be. The witch illusion had already been crushed, and Beato's voice didn't reach anyone. The verdict had already been announced. Everything had been decided.
No one can hear you. You're a phantom, a mere illusion. Go back to being a simple portrait. You're a frail illusion of a witch, born when the relatives shared in Kinzo's fantasy. That is the truth chosen by this world. So, great Lady Lambda Delta, now is the time for you to bury this presumptuous and foolish illusion that calls itself a witch. Goodbye, Beatrice. I made you a witch hoping that you would either become my friend or help me distract from my boredom. And you've answered my expectations. The second one, that is. I am a witch. Even if you don't acknowledge it, Lady Lambda Delta. I am a witch. You wouldn't even have been capable of believing that if I hadn't become your guardian in the first place. Okay, it's game over for you now. I'll bury you in accordance with the rules of your game board. What happens to the losers in your game again? Beato has already shown that clearly in a previous game. You get tossed into the goat's dinner party as a lump of living flesh and are chewed to bits. Now there's a fitting end for you, Beatrice. And I didn't come all the way here just to hear the death cries of one as haughty as you. One by one, a massive number of unspeaking goat attendants slipped out from behind pillars and began to fill the cathedral. The goats paid no attention to Natsuhi, who was seated in the center, but the crowd completely enveloped her. From Beato's point of view up on the balcony, it must have looked like a huge boiling pot of goats. That's right. This was our contract from the beginning. Yep. Our contract said that whenever you stopped entertaining me, you would relieve me of my boredom with your life. Come, strip the title of witch from this woman and throw her into the pot of goats. Suddenly, there were goats standing right behind Beato. They lifted her up roughly. Let me hear some nice screams. You're a bottle of wine we've been saving for this day. Then remaining silent will be my final strike back at you. Yes, I made her say it. The screams of those who give me that line as their parting shot are the most gratifying of all. Now fall, Beatrice. The goats carrying Beato no longer viewed her as their master. After holding her above the pot of clamoring goats, which were snorting heavily in anticipation, they threw Beato's slender body into the air. All at once, the squirming goats faced the heavens and raised their arms. It was almost as though devouring her flesh would allow them to forget their pain for just a short while. As she flew through the air, Beato tried to smile boldly, but it was so forced that it seemed even more pathetic, greatly pleasing Berncastle. When Beato fell into the pot, the goats caught her. Of course, they didn't do it gently. The arms of countless goats pulled at her flesh to keep it for themselves. They tried to tear her to bits. It didn't have to be flesh. Hair, fingernails, shoes, even bits of her dress worked just fine.
The mouths of those goats were the gateway into hell. However, Beato was too big to pass through that gateway, so they had to chew and tear her into bits small enough to fit into it. Beato let out a bold laugh. She laughed from inside the pot of goats. However, her expression was very different from the one she had intended. It was an expression not of a witch, but of a single human screaming out for the final time. Then, the sea of goats parted. Oh, there she is! Also a reminder, while that was peace, Beatrice, they are denying Beatrice's existence, so that does hurt our Beato. And could kill her. So there was some stuff, there's some stuff at stake here. But Delanor to the rescue. Delanor leapt forward, slicing all the goats in her path with a single flash of her longsword. It was a thin slice, like cutting through butter. The goats were surprised by Delanor's sudden appearance and stepped back. In the center, Beatrice cowered in tatters, sobbing. They hurt our girl. It's absolutely cheap. That's like part of the whole. This whole cord thing is cheap and a trap, and it's terrible. And they basically they're just sort of toying around, trying to flip the chessboard, so to speak.
What's the meaning of this, Inquisitor Delanor?
My apologies, but I have something to say. There is someone who has an objection to this verdict. His name is Ushinomiya Battler. Just real quick. Resurrecting your player, nice. All of the goats stared at Battler. What do you find unsatisfactory about the court's decision? I assume you possess new evidence or truth sufficient to request a retrial. I get it. Delanor is offering me a helping hand. If she hadn't jumped in here, it'd all be over. And I fully understand now how I'm supposed to fight. But it's that very understanding that makes me unable to fight. Because I know I can't win by simply countering Erika's truth. If I want to deny her truth, I'll need to present a different one. And I still don't have a clue what that truth is. There is nothing that time cannot heal. And there is no truth that cannot be reached if you spend enough time searching. However, all courts place time limits upon determining the truth. And a truth that cannot be reached within that time limit cannot become truth. Yeah, I know that. By now, everyone is certain that Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit. It might be too late now, even for the real truth. Yeah, I think they basically blocked him off on purpose. They stopped him from talking until now, and because, you know, he's a wild card and they can't have that. I feel like personally they're dumb as fuck, because that would be way more interesting, and like they don't want to be bored, right? So just throw him in there, see what happens. It'll be less boring. But that's my take. I'm not a witch. I don't know. Aunt Ava's violence will probably go unstopped, and no one is even thinking about protecting Aunt Natsuhi. It's no longer a situation where we can say, oh, the truth will eventually be found. And in this world, even the time allotted to us to expose the truth is very short. It's already midnight, and the end of the game. The police won't come. The truth won't be revealed. Only the truth decided upon here and now will remain. I slowly stood up, walked in front of Beato, and faced Leno. I have no plan. I don't know the truth. However, if I don't jump in now, I won't get another chance to fight. The red used by Erika's group is mercilessly strict. I seriously doubt that I can put together a truth where Natsuhi isn't the culprit without violating that red. Why the uncertain face? How pathetic. Damn it. He is gonna wing it. Madeline. I'll be the one to kill you. I want to keep that promise. And yet, right now, I don't have any plan at all. That's okay. In this world, there is no truth. The truth is made later on and overwrites what comes before it. Real truth doesn't exist anywhere. This is a wonderful turn of events, Delenor. Yes, the execution of a princess would be no fun at all without a knight appearing to rescue her. And there could be nothing better than having him beheaded before her very eyes. Bury the old piece and the unneeded player together. Damn, Burn. As you wish. Glory be to the great Lady Burncastle. I am the Chief Inquisitor, Delenor A. Knox. Step forward, Ushinomiya Battler. Damn it. I've got nothing more to lose. If you want to see me struggle, here you go. The only reason Erika's theory is so strong is because of those seals. She was given red so quickly just because Lambda Delta easily bought the alibis created by those seals. That was a difficult sentence. But the seals aren't red truth. Just sticking paper in a door crack is far from perfect. There's no way something like that can prove anything with certainty.
Begin, Battler. Ready to let those goats turn you into a pile of meat along with your beloved Beatrice.
Oh, and I'll mix the leftovers from your precious sister into that pile. Wouldn't that make for a wonderful stack of meat? Then we can wrap it up in a dumpling, steam it, and maybe add some soy sauce.
No, the best way would be to fry them in a pan with some eggs and ketchup.
Damn it.
Can't we doubt the reliability of these seals of Erika's? Something like wedging some paper in a door can't create a perfect alibi. It might be that someone noticed by chance and happened to put it back in the same place. The blade of my blue truth should have slashed diagonally through Delenor's chest. However, Delenor's expression didn't budge in the slightest, and there wasn't a single wound on her chest. I was wondering what you'd throw out there, but this is ridiculous.
Allow me to explain. This is what I sealed the doors with. Did you think it was paper, Battler-san?
Erika once again held up the thing that looked like brown paper.
This is duct tape. Its adhesive power is extremely strong. I scored it with scissors to make sure it tore easily. Furthermore, across the center seam and the edges affixed to the door and the frame, I wrote my signature, which is impossible to reproduce. Therefore, it's impossible to tear it off without leaving a mark, and it's impossible to reattach to. Applying to unsheath the red key. Granted. Due to the above, the seals are guaranteed to be perfect. Miss Erika's seals were not broken by anyone, and deception is impossible. I'll acknowledge Erika's seals. However, Aunt Ava's seal on Genji-san's room should be different. Ava's seal was of the same type as Miss Erika's. That is because this method of sealing was one that Miss Erika and Ava conceived of together after dinner. Erika fished through the chemicals in Grandfather's room saying she'd use them for forensic testing, right? There might have been some kind of solvent among them. If you use that, you might be able to tear off the duct tape without leaving fingernail marks. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. It is impossible to tear off any of the seals by any method without leaving marks. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. There are no suspicious marks on any of the seals. This proves that there was no tampering done to any of the seals. Repetition requested. Yes, gladly. All of Erika and Ava's seals were not tampered with in any way that hindered their ability to act as seals, such as being scraped off. Damn it! Damn you, sticking duct tape all over the place that leaves marks on whatever it touches? The Lanor isn't my only enemy. There's also her subordinates, Gertrude and Cornelia. And also Erika, and her master, Berncastle. And even Lambda Delta, the one who hijacked Beato's game. Everyone in this cathedral is an enemy. That fierce rush of red immediately repelled my feeble truth. It's obvious why. I don't have any alternate truth. Even at this final stage, I have nothing. Were the seals all that you had to discuss? You promised to give me everything you have. If I only knew a truth that could prove Aunt Natsuhi's innocence. If I could only make a theory that weaves its way through Erika's red. Damn it, I don't know anything. Do you have any chance of winning? I left it at home. Mind if I go back and get it? I've already lost. I am prepared for my fate. I promised that I'd kill you, so I won't let anyone else do it. I never break a promise. That's a lie. I will never trust one of your promises again. Huh? When did I ever make a promise to you and lie about it? After hearing you say that, hell might not be so bad. Kill us. Castle. Lambda Delta. Beata let out a shrill cry, overcome with laughter. It was a broken laugh, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Valor's words would no longer reach her ears. She kept on laughing insanely, like a broken record. Is it
over? Pitiful. I truly am disappointed, Ushiromiya Battler. Kill me, Delaware. Slice me in half with your red longsword. I postulate a method X that could lead someone to the upper floor of the guest house without passing through the lounge. Erika claims that the windows and such were sealed, but she can't prove that she sealed all possible means of entry. There's a possibility that Erika was unable to seal entrance X because she couldn't find it. Nox's third. It is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. As the detective, Miss Erika sealed all entrances. Passages that the detective cannot find are hidden passages. Therefore, there are no entrances that Miss Erika cannot find. I present the possibility that Erika's lookout in the lounge wasn't perfect. During the 2 hours Erika spent there, did she really observe everything without looking away for a second? It might have been possible for someone to pass through the lounge during a small window of opportunity when Erika at least wouldn't have seen them. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Lady Erika's lookout in the lounge was perfect. There were no small gaps or carelessness or times when she looked away for even a second. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Therefore, during their entire meeting in the lounge, only Rosa went up to the second floor. But was that really Aunt Rosa herself? There's a possibility that someone disguised themselves as Aunt Rosa. Or maybe she was actually holding a large suitcase with someone hiding inside it. Nox's 10th. Wrong voice. Nox's 10th. It is forbidden for a character to disguise themselves as another without any clues. There was no foreshadowing suggesting that someone might be disguised as Rosa. Furthermore, Erika verified that Rosa was not carrying any luggage large enough to hide a human being. Aunt Natsuhi was being threatened by someone. The uninvited, unknown guest X is the true culprit. How can you be sure that we are the only ones on this island? The true culprit is someone else. Nox's first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. Maybe they were killed with poison in a remote murder. With a strange drug that can make a cut appear in the victim's neck when they died. The poison used as a delayed effect, so even with an alibi... Nox's fourth. It is forbidden for unknown drugs or obscure scientific devices to be used. There's a chance that there existed a murder device X in the cousin's room in Genji-san's quarters that made a remote murder possible. It used a secret mechanism that still hasn't been discovered to... Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. I just know there exists a true culprit other than Aunt Natsuhi. If you deny that, then for each character, repeat it in red that they aren't the culprit. Nox's 6th. It is forbidden for accident or unaccountable intuition to be employed as a detective technique. You say that everyone except Aunt Natsuhi has an alibi? You're forgetting one. Who's gonna prove that Erika herself has an alibi? Nox's 7th. It is forbidden for the detective to be the culprit. Unless she's caught red-handed, you should never be able to deny the possibility that Aunt Natsuhi is innocent. Can you even deny future possibilities, like if a piece of evidence X that Erika hasn't discovered proves Natsuhi's innocence? Not badly. Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. This story is full of malicious fiction. The story itself is a trap designed to frame Aunt Natsuhi. We should reconstruct the story from impartial truths alone. Nox's 9th. Observers are permitted to put forward their own conclusions and interpretations. Maybe I was the culprit, and I gave George Aniki and the others a slow-acting poison to make them die after midnight, then silently slit their throats when I returned at 3 AM. I could have done it so quietly that Erika wouldn't hear. Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Everyone committed suicide, so there is no culprit. God, he's trying so hard. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. All deaths were homicides. Erika didn't personally examine the corpses, right? It should be possible for people who aren't the detective to make a mistake when examining the corpses.
For your information, I beg to inform you of the following. Be advised that no examination of any corpse is ever mistaken.
Then maybe they were body-double corpses. They prepared corpses beforehand that closely resembled the victims.
Be advised that no corpses exist except those of characters who have appeared in the story.
Then how can you claim that Uncle Kraus is dead without his corpse? Doesn't that violate Nox's something or whatever?
Be advised that the red truth is simply truth, and there is no need to provide evidence or proof.
What the? Damn it all. In the face of these insane arguments, all my effort to overturn the truth treating Aunt Natsuhi as the culprit is completely meaningless. Each time I brandish my desperate blue truths, Delano and the others' red truths knock me down to the floor. It's getting hard to even stand back up again. Does that mean my body is telling me that I'm about to surrender to the truth where Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit? Their red truth is getting more and more perfect. Each time I think I can slip through a chink in their armor, Delano smacks me down with the red longsword of Nox. Beato. That's enough, Paddler. This will at last be the end of the eternal torture that torments me. No, us. Let us fall together into the depths. That was me, not Valor, but he also said the same noise. I don't want to see Beato like this. Her Majesty is the ruler of the Golden Land, and her enthusiasm as my adversary are completely gone. She's just a pitiful woman who's been trampled over, and who has lost all hope. With tears streaming down her face and a tragic smile that I can't bear to look at. Does your truth no longer exist? No. I have one last thing. And that is a different truth where Natsuhi is not the culprit. No. All I can do is prove that Aunt Natsuhi isn't the culprit. I can't show what the real truth beyond that is at all. But even so, maybe at least you'll be saved that way. Why? I can show, without a doubt, that Aunt Natsuhi isn't the culprit. But I cannot present a different truth. If Erika's truth is dispersed, the crime will return to darkness and there might still be room for you to exist. Assuming you can pull it off. But if you can't present a new truth, that means you're incompetent and useless as a player. I'll have you vanish from this game board for all eternity. At this point, the game master is Lambda Delta, and she's there too. This probably doesn't mean defeat in a single game, but being banished from this game for all eternity as the loser. From what the witches have said in the past, I can faintly imagine the place pieces are sent when they're banished. It's known as the depths of oblivion, and an eternal darkness that lies on the far side of an eternal oblivion, and where there is no concept of life or death. I'm going to disappear. But still, Beato will remain. As long as Beato remains, no matter how suspicious Aunt Natsuhi is, there will always remain space for the witch to be the culprit. In other words, room for Aunt Natsuhi to not be the culprit. As long as that wriggle room is there, someone will eventually expose the truth. It doesn't have to be me. Eventually, someone, at least, will smash this fake truth to pieces. I understood that this was the time to abandon myself for the sake of this other person who would eventually appear. For the sake of the real truth. Well, looks like I'll have to break my promise to kill you after all. Don't leave me as the only one alive. I'll disappear with you. Let that be your final tribute to me. I beg you. If you just grant this one wish, I won't need anything else. Have you said your last goodbyes? I really am disappointed in you, Ushinomiya Battler.
Hurry up and put him out of his misery. We still have to get to my monologue exposing Natsuhi-san's crimes. You guys are really interesting. Beatrice. Ushinomiya Battler.
But I've gotten tired of you. You aren't needed in our game.
Do it, Leonard.
This is the end. If you still have one last bit of power, let me see you muster it now, in your last moments. It's a small, but brilliant red truth. My last trump card, courtesy of Virgilia. Erika, this takes your theory back to square one.
Go for it, if you think you can. Take this. Ushiromiya Natsuhi is not the culprit.
The red truth is simply truth, with no evidence or proof required. This will make the landlord stagger. Even if that's all it does. It's the first and last strike I can make. Uh-oh. Noxus second. It is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique. My red truth was blown away by the Linor's red longsword.
In this court, if anyone other than witches is going to speak the red truth, they'll have to construct an appropriate proof for it. Erika has been following this protocol. Why can't you?
True. Erika herself hasn't used the red even once so far. She's always had the witch Burncastle make those statements by using repetition requests. Your red truth isn't something you obtained for yourself. It's a supernatural truth gifted to you by a paranormal entity. In other words, it isn't reasoning. It's no better than a random thought. In that case, if I have Virgilia say the same red truth, where is Virgilia? If you are to present that red truth, you must construct an appropriate argument. Can you do that? No. It's impossible. I just have the truth that Aunt Natsuhi isn't the culprit, without any basis or evidence. See, real truth is a very fragile thing. Does real truth exist? And is it necessary? Even without it, the story goes on. Badly. Now, Battler, prove the red you have shown. If you cannot, this is goodbye. Then, this is goodbye. Sorry, Beato. Don't say that. Thanks for sticking around with me. It was such a blood-stained tale. But it was fun. This court is now disbanded. Dead. Death, 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 death. Holy shit. Death, 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 death. I can't say it that many times. My god. Death, death, death. Die the death. Sentence to death. Great equalizer is the death. Then, the trial for the fifth game was over. The detective, Furudo Erika, accused the culprit, Ushiromiya Natsuhi. There are 3 riddles that the detective must explain. The first is the whodunit. Who is the culprit? As previously stated, it is Ushiromiya Natsuhi. The second is the howdunit. How did they carry out the crime? During the hour between midnight on October 4th, 1986, and 1 a.m. the next day. Ushiromiya Natsuhi went to the cousin's room on the second floor of the guest house and the servants' quarters on the first floor of the mansion. There, she carried out the murders. It is only possible for the crime to have taken place during that hour. And for that 1 hour, alibis have been proven for all characters except Natsuhi. No! Oh no, they made CGs for this. This is terrible. Oh my god. From the sky, a massive, red longsword, even greater in size than the one Valenor held, came crashing down like a thunderbolt and pierced through Balor's heart, pinning him in place while he still stood. In that instant, Beatrice vanished in a spray of gold, and her former minions disappeared as well. As the heartless witches looked down at the cathedral center, laughing coldly, all that remained was Balor, with the red longsword sticking through him, and Lenor. Rest in peace, Ushiromiya Battler. It is a shame. I thought you were a more capable person than this. Okay. Balor blew bubbles of blood, closed his eyes slowly, and expired. Valenor stared on in silence, then turned on her heels when she saw his life leave him. After that, all that remained was the corpse of this sorrowful man, pierced by the sword that acted as a massive, red grave marker, and lit by the faint glow let in from the cathedral's skylight. Okay, I think we're gonna actually cut it there. And I know that sucks, because timing, but good cliffhanger I think, but also like it's late. It's actually really late. I went overtime a little bit. Yeah. I was trying to get to a specific part. And oh, we are still very far off from that part. So I think it's gonna be, it depends a little bit, but I think it's gonna be 2 more episodes, and then we start 6. And yeah, it's late. Real quick. I saved. Yep. I'll save again just to be sure. I'm very paranoid about saving. Ever since, I think it was Oblivion, where like the autosave broke your save game, so if you have that turned on, it would just corrupt everything. And so now I always double, triple save everything. If I remember, because I will not remember usually, but I always do it twice, generally speaking. Only with games. With my artwork, it's fine, just once. No fear. So, this is completely unrelated. Yeah, quick save is where it's at though. So a couple things. We have some new emotes on the channel. Because Twitch has basically doled them out to people. Still waiting to. Yeah, the bit ones are old, but there should be like this one. That's a new one. Yeah, the tier 2 ones and stuff are still the same, but you should have 4 new emotes. Yay. And I'm gonna occasionally swap in different ones. Until Twitch is nice enough to give me follower emotes. Hint hint. But they're not gonna see this. Who knows, maybe one day. Eventually we're gonna get animated emote slots, and I have some stuff ready for that. So that should be fun. And on Sunday, upcoming Sunday, that's the 28th of November, 2021. That's where we're gonna start watching the anime of Umineko in my Discord. And we're basically gonna make fun of it because it sucks. It's terrible. It's absolute garbage. That's not true. There are good parts, especially the voice acting. The voice acting is stellar, and the music, of course, is gonna be pretty good. So yeah, hop on Discord and join us if you want. It's gonna be in the evening. I'll post a time when I have like a general idea of when I want to do that. It should be fun. I have it all ready to go, and we're just gonna make it an occasional thing on Sundays. Maybe. So yeah, feel free to join in, especially if you're seeing this and you haven't been following the show, or not the show, I mean me playing the game, right? Because then you can start from episode 1. Yay, what a good time to catch up with just the fucking worst thing imaginable. Because again, it sucks, but it's like a beautiful train wreck. It'll be fun. Yeah, I do there's a channel for if you just want to type and not talk on a mic, which is always extra good for when you're, watching a thing together, so you don't have to talk right through it. So we're all going to be using that, I imagine, but we'll see how it goes. But yes, you can just not use a mic if you want. It's a beautiful train wreck. Oh my god, it's so terrible. And then some parts are so good because like the voice actors are top notch. So the line delivery is great, but then you look at the visuals and just the pacing, and none of it makes sense, and ugh. It'll be fun. And I think that was my set. Yeah. Oh, and then I'm gonna show off the hand gestures, right? Because that's a new thing. So earlier I was able to do it. Like I throw up some devil horns, and then I start crying, basically. You can't see it on, like, my little avatar in the corner. You can't see it on that one, I think. So this one's effectively useless. If I do a thumbs up, then there's a permanent blush. And if I do like a little, like, okay signal, bam, eye patch. Very classy. So that happened accidentally earlier. And then I can also do this with my eyes. And also sitting really, really still. And that one's going to come in handy later, but hasn't yet. I don't know if you can even see it. But yeah, I'm very proud of the eye patch. Thank you for noticing. But yes, the soulless eyes are going to be relevant at some point. That's why they're there. I can also, this one's a little fucky. Let me actually. It's a troll face, but I haven't locked in all the expressions, so it doesn't, like, it overlaps with the regular facial expression. So if I move my eyebrows, it goes weird. I think I showed that off already. The timing of that is the same as the laugh noise that you hear whenever one of the witches laughs. So that's like I can make them overlap and it's the exact same timing and it's like perfect. But it's a Beatrice face basically. But I still have to fix it. I might do that tomorrow actually. I also always forget to use it, so that's, again, most of these things are just silly things I make to amuse myself, but that's why they're all the more fun to show off. Alright. Let's see, I'm just looking for outro song real quick. Well, thank you. I appreciate that you guys like the model. I worked really hard on it, so it's nice to be able to show them off a little bit occasionally. And I'm working on Iggy as well. He's gonna have hands. Real ones. Assuming it all works, but like, that's the plan. The plan is hands. But this is gonna take a while, so I'm thinking like 3, 4, 5 weeks at the least. So we'll see how that goes. There'll be a lot of swearing, I'm sure. But until then, well, not until then. I'm gonna be back on Monday with something. I don't know what. We'll see. And then on Wednesday, we're gonna find out what happens after our protagonist fucking died. Because he died. There are more episodes after this, like more arcs. I can't wait to show you guys what happens. I'm very hyped for next week. Really, I will cry. Just fair warning, I'm gonna cry. But it'll be worth it. And, yeah. Oh. Hold on. I made a special ending screen because of Erika's seals. So here's the special ending screen. It is over the chat right now. There we go. That's better. I have a little too much fun with the end screens. But yeah, this one I had to. It was so silly. Like, she literally climbs up the wall, up to the second floor window, in a swimsuit, during a typhoon, to put duct tape on the fucking windows. And then she does it again in the morning to check. This is why Erika has her own content warning. She's special. Yes. Alright. I'm gonna go sleep, because it's late here. But thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope to see you for the next one, because oh wow, it'll be a good one. It will, I promise. Yeah, bring tissues. And yeah, I'm glad I was able to go on a little longer, because it's gonna be a while until we finish 2 more episodes, I'm thinking. But it'll be worth it. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And have a great night. Have a great week. Thank you again. All my confidence from the start of this episode is gone, but that's okay. Sleep well, good night, and thank you for being here again. See you next time. Bye bye.